Hi, I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times. It's Friday, June the 5th, news from Arkansas. This not just in. We recorded yesterday shortly before I got word of a very interesting development in Fayetteville. They've been working behind the scenes to come up with a consensus new effort at a civil rights ordinance that provides protection for sexual orientation and gender identity in Fayetteville, and I think they've got a winner this time. Adela Gray and Matthew Petty will sponsor the new ordinance. It's just about as broad as the one that was repealed by voters a few months ago. The difference is it's much cleaner, it's much more streamlined. It addresses some concerns about being too ticky as far as business is concerned. It sets up a commission that includes several business people that will consider complaints. Key factor that I learned yesterday from Adela Gray, the Fayetteville Chamber of Commerce, which opposed the first ordinance that was proposed in the city, now will back this ordinance. So will a member of the city council who was one of 2 votes against it. All of this will take place only after approval by voters. They'll have that on the front end. It'll be at a special election in September. Presuming the council does adopt this ordinance, I think they have the votes to do it. There'll be a hearing Tuesday and then a vote on it in the following week in June. So big news in Fayetteville. I think Fayetteville got a black eye from what happened up there. One question, of course, is whether the Jim Bob Duggar family with Michelle Duggar will take an active role. They don't live in Fayetteville, but they spent a lot of money to beat the first Fayetteville ordinance. You'll remember that Michelle Duggar did a lot of robocalling talking about how she feared perverted LGBT people would prey on children in bathrooms. Since then, she's had troubles in her own family. Will she appear in this campaign or not? I think she still believes the same way she believed then. Speaking of the Duggars, 2 Duggar daughters will be on Megyn Kelly's program on Fox tonight. They've outed themselves essentially to defend their family on some of the outgrowth of the sexual molestation charges. It's going to be a pretty friendly setting. They're going to present themselves as victims. So far, the Duggars' efforts to rehabilitate themselves in the face of this haven't been successful, but Megyn Kelly continues to try to do it, including misrepresenting the facts about the release of information on this case. Elsewhere, the state of Arkansas is going to have to pay $134,000 in legal fees to people who sued over a rule that prevented beards in prisons. There was a Muslim inmate that wanted to have a beard in keeping with his religion. The U.S. Supreme Court ruled 9-0 in his favor. That was correct. Yesterday, they entered a settlement in the case that makes it very clear they can't make this man shave his beard, that there has to be a beard policy. Most other states have this policy, but we're going to spend $134,000 in tax money to defend what was a wholly arbitrary rule by prison officials. And I brought up now that currently prison officials are pretty arbitrarily enforcing rules against most media interviews, particularly with controversial inmates. There's a First Amendment issue here, both for the press and for the inmates. I'd hate to have to sue again and the state to lose more money over arbitrary prison rules, but we may be heading down that road. Speaking about the courts, there was a funny ruling from the Arkansas Supreme Court Thursday. They issued a small order in a technical case out of Columbia County, but they remonstrated the judges in the case, saying that prompt administration of justice is essential to a good justice system. Well, this is the court that's now, 14 months into the same-sex marriage case and still no word if they ever will decide it. It's one of those cases saying do as we do but not as we say. And speaking of delays, I wrote a little bit about an interesting appeal that's been filed with the Supreme Court. Washington County officials are trying to collect property taxes from the University of Arkansas on land the university owns, but doesn't use for university purposes, apartments and those sorts of things that are strictly private enterprises. The county thinks these things should be taxed. The university does not. It won a lower court ruling. That decision will be appealed. It will have statewide importance when it's decided. 2 months into the briefing of this case, Courtney Goodson has not yet said whether she's going to recuse from this case or not. She's a justice of the Supreme Court. Her husband is a member of one of the defendants in the case, John Goodson, a member of the University of Arkansas Board of Trustees. Perhaps she should show a little expeditiousness in presenting more ethical appearances on the Supreme Court. They finished the annual Walmart meeting in Fayetteville today. The stockholders had their usual big time, thousands of people, big name entertainers like Reese Witherspoon and Rod Stewart. Greg Penner was voted chairman of the board of directors to replace Rob Walton. He had a pretty good inside line. He's Rob Walton's son-in-law. No change. The Waltons still control everything and will continue to do so. The Quapaw tribe today released letters they've sent to federal officials disputing some things that local officials have said and opposing the Quapaw's desire to turn into federal trust land 160 acres they bought in East Little Rock. Local officials say they should be subjected to local regulation rather than get the freedom from that federal trust land status carries with it. The tribe has brought out publicly for the first time its belief that some of the opposition to this comes from Oaklawn Park, the casino in Hot Springs, and fear that perhaps the Quapaw are thinking about establishing a casino here. They say they are not. It would be a very difficult process if indeed they were thinking about doing it. But it's a shame that the white men are again trying to dictate to a tribe that was thrown out of this state and deprived of its land how they must live on their land, ancestral homeland, and includes some significant Indian sites. So once again, I don't blame the Indians for being a little distrustful of the white man's intentions in these matters. I think they should be able to have sovereignty just like other legitimate Indian tribes do. And for that matter, we probably ought to have a good discussion about gambling. It's an economic boon. Why should one person get a monopoly on it and other people not? Finally, a plug for the weekend. I went to the preview last night of August Osage County at the Arkansas Repertory Theater. It's fantastic. It's a 3-hour play. Didn't seem like it was a fraction that long. It's funny, it's emotional, it's dark, it's hard to watch at times, almost slapstickish at times. It's sort of a big, sprawling family soap opera. I say go see it. Now, if curse words aren't your thing, don't, but they're kind of my thing. So that's it for me today. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back next week.